business along the way. So it's been a real pleasure to get to know all the great talent and players in the workforce ecosystem here in Minnesota. I'll pass it to Erin, and then Phil will say hi and we'll jump right in.
Hello and good afternoon. Sorry, I had to find the unmute button there. My name is Erin Olson. I'm the Director of Strategic Research for Real-Time Talent. I've been with the organization since we were formed back in late 2015. So excited to be here with all of you today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Phil Ariano. I am the Project Manager for Workforce Development with Real-Time Talent, and I've been with Real-Time Talent for just about 5 years. Now I'll pass it back.
Thanks, team. So I'm not going to spend any time on what Real-Time Talent really does and how we do it, but on the next slide, you'll see that our core mission is to accelerate the alignment of available talent in the workforce and the jobs that employers very much need to fill. So Real-Time Talent is about looking at real-time data insights. And as we were doing that work, when I joined in 2018, we came to learn about the talent pipeline framework, which really builds off of our fundamental core capability, which is around current labor market insights and analysis. We're honored to be here today to share a bit more about how Real-Time Talent's work informed the launching of our TPM pilots in Minnesota. Today's session really features Erin Olson as our Strategic Research Director in order to give you a sense at the 30,000-foot level of all the different data sources that are available to you as you do your TPM work in your local geographies, and really can be instructive. All of that aside, the most important piece of all is that your employers in your TPM collaborative must validate the data. And that's the beauty of TPM, because now you're actually getting in with a fixed set of employers and key partners to do the work that's really hard to do when you're trying to boil the ocean at an industry or sector level of analysis. So with that, Phil's going to share a bit more after that about how we tied our research insights into the work around strategy 2, demand planning and so forth. And then we'll just hope to have maybe a little moment for some Q&A or something at the end. But I would just say, y'all, buckle in. Here we go. It's going to be a quick ride over the next 25 minutes or so to really help open your eyes and offer you some things to think about as you get into the data, which is a really important part, right? TPM is data driven, and that's what makes it different. So Erin, I'll turn it over to you. Or sorry, I'm turning it over to Phil. So Phil's going to tell you a little bit about the first collaborative we launched in Minnesota.
Yeah, we wanted to really set up the story about our first collaborative before we jump into one of our core services, which is the research we offer. Because in 2019, we launched 2 collaboratives, both as pilot projects in the Twin Cities area, funded in partnership with regional workforce development organizations, and with the goal of building a sustainable, totally employer-funded model that we could scale throughout Minnesota. And so working with 2 of our larger long-term care associations, that being Leading Age and Care Providers of Minnesota, we began the work with 9 employers, and we focused on the nursing assistant job as the critical pain point. And later on, we'll show you the data that validated the concerns of these employers and their projected needs. So that's a little background there on the collaborative that we will focus on a little bit later, but now I'd like to pass it over to Erin, who's going to talk about our research, one of our core services.
Great, thank you, Phil. So I'd like to share first just a little bit about how Real-Time Talent delivers research and labor market analysis services to our partners across our state as an example, and really set the stage for how labor market data helps to support the work of TPM collaboratives as well. So the research and consulting services that we offer range from smaller scale reports on local wages for employers and nonprofit organizations, all the way to large scale statewide and regional projects that address program offerings, industry sector needs, or system level strategies. So each year we produce over 100 reports, of which there are always public components made available for a general audience. So you can find many of our reports on our website, which is shown in the green box on this slide. For example, we delivered an early analysis of Minnesota's talent shortage and evaluation of possible strategies to mitigate that shortage from 2016 through 2020. And we've adjusted that analysis since the onset of the pandemic to better understand the impacts of the pandemic on different communities, occupations, industries, and regionally across our state. So I also want to point you to explore our Twin Cities sector analysis reports in particular on our website, and our current technical education analysis there as well. I'll speak to each of those points a little bit more in the slides ahead. So on the next slide, here's that example of that talent shortage piece. Not so long ago, at the very start of 2020, in fact, we were looking at a significant statewide talent shortage. The 7-county metro alone, so our Minneapolis-St. Paul area, accounted for just over half of our total state's expected talent shortage in just like a 5-year timeframe. And so this was part of really the impetus of having 2 Metro TPM pilots back in 2019. This was some of that data that was really foundational to say, hey, we got to get ahead of this talent shortage. We click forward just once on this, you'll see a couple things appear on this slide here. So we knew even then that all of the strategies possible to address the talent shortage with our available labor force in our state, without a doubt, and addressing racial and ethnic wage, employment, and career advancement inequalities in our workforce system had the potential to have the greatest impact on closing our talent gap. And there are really 3 big levers that were our key issues at the time. First, bias and inequities in our processes, programs, and systems that perpetuate disparities. Second, mismatches in skills, education, experience, and geographies of talent compared to employer demand and where the opportunities are. And then third, the overall numbers problem of just not having enough workers to meet our state's demand. And so there's no one simple solution to our workforce challenges then or now. And this grand challenge, or some call it a wicked problem, of our talent shortage and talent misalignment requires strategies that address all of these issues from a macro level, employer level, and a job seeker level simultaneously. And it's quite the undertaking to try to triangulate the work of community-based organizations offering training, post-secondary education, and employer strategies. And so that's where models like talent pipeline management are so important. They provide that proven model and framework to take things one critical talent need at a time and address all angles of the issue at hand. So we need this kind of macro level picture, which we can capture from data, and I'll kind of dig into some sources so that you can kind of take a look at this type of analysis on your own. And then we need to be able to funnel that down into the very specific impacts that have to happen employer by employer, occupation by occupation. So this next slide here, you can click, I think, once. Yep, perfect. That's just right. So in our TPM work and in really any project addressing this grand challenge of workforce alignment, education and labor market data serve as a valuable set of tools at many different stages, whether we need to benchmark our understanding of how well programs are aligning to talent needs today, set our sights on where we want to eventually be better aligned, or evaluate the impact of a program or an intervention. So specifically, labor market data and education data can help streamline those first steps in setting up a TPM collaborative by helping you to identify some of the likely local pain points of your local employers before you even get into that room and start to talk with them about their needs. The conversation goes differently. You're able to show an employer that you already know that they're facing a highly competitive hiring market for, say, personal care aides. People speak about some of the wage details, the skill needs, or other hiring requirements from those critical positions. So job posting data, for example, is one set of data tools that really has given us a window into the job titles that employers specifically use, which are often quite different from those broader occupation names or SOC codes, if some of you are familiar, that are used in a lot of our traditional labor market information sources. You can also use job posting data to identify the specific employers with similar hiring pain points for a particular position and make that short list of employers to reach out to about the TPM opportunities. So once you start to get an idea of where you're going, you can leverage data like job posting data to help you kind of get a fast track on who to invite. Education and graduate awards data from sources like NCES iPads and education data aggregated from candidate profiles can also be used to identify some of the possible education pipeline limitations that could be key levers of action for your TPM collaborative to look at. You can also use this data to help you establish a structure for how you identify employers to engage in your TPM process. So on the next slide, this is again kind of a macro level picture of kind of the theory of data analysis that I bring to TPM and our research work at Real-Time Talent in general. There's a model called the Data Information Knowledge Wisdom Pyramid, or the DIKW pyramid, but I kind of flip that pyramid on its head and I think of it kind of like a funnel in some sense. So the limitless data that's available in our kind of qualitative and quantitative forms really come together to provide us with information. So we have this softer data, which is largely qualitative, that context, for example, that you know from conversations you have with industry, the observations that you have over the course of your experience in the workforce arena, and information that you gather out of interviews, then coupled with that quantitative data coming out of traditional and real-time data sources in our case, and from the data tools used in the TPM process. And so those things together really need to, they're both essential aspects to really get to information that is able to be translated into action and into what is shown in this chart as knowledge or insights. So in all honesty, working with the data, particularly qualitative data, is often the most time-consuming part of a research process, but it can be the most rewarding in the long term as it creates that foundation for benchmarking and determining real outcomes so that you can show where you've come from and where you've gone in the course of your work. So it's really important to think before you collect, since data collection and analysis can take a lot of time and be costly. But thankfully, from the TPM data collector and the suite of tools that are available, it's actually not as intensive as you might fear. So we're a mighty team of 4 here at Real Time Talent. My research team is me and one other person, and we can really make it happen here. So I promise you that there are tools at your disposal to make it manageable. On the next slide, I've summarized a couple of the examples. You can click a couple more times. I apologize for all of the pieces. One more time. Perfect, that's it. So here I've summarized a few examples of important data sources to reference to understand labor market trends. So on the left, you'll see a few qualitative methods to capture the real world insights of community leaders. Many of those will be familiar to you, like surveys, interviews. But really what I want to focus on here is what comes from the 2 right columns. Here I've listed sources specific to Minnesota, but you can certainly find your state's comparable data sources in most cases. The US Census Bureau is one essential source of demographic and reliable household composition data, as well as the quarterly workforce indicators, which there's a great tool that offers industry data on turnover, stable employment, and more by talent demographics. So that can be a nice way to get a picture of kind of industry turnover trends that then you can compare in your TPM collaborative to some of the numbers that you're seeing for your group of employers. Our local Department of Employment and Economic Development as well is a valuable source of labor market information. So you can see a couple of examples here of the types of sources that we have, and all of these are live links. So if you get this deck afterwards, you can click through and see these examples yourselves. And then there are also real-time data sources, which are on that last right-hand column. And those are really especially important right now with so much in flux with the pandemic and so many impacts. We've seen that the traditional labor market information that we have and the forecasts that were designed pre-pandemic really do not hold true to what we've seen in terms of recovery. And so with job posting data and candidate profile data, we can get more real-time insights on what's happening in our market and what's shifting in terms of employer demand. So, and so now more than ever before, these are really essential pieces to focus in on newly emerging skills, certifications, or other requirements. So again, not a replacement for TPM at all, but it can be a place where you can look to say, hey, we're really noticing, a couple of keywords really jumping up. There's, we're seeing in these job postings that now, 30% of postings in IT in this region are remote and permanently remote. What is the impact then that might have on our employers? Should we be talking about this in our collaborative? Can start to give you some of the topics that should be brought up to talk about the needs for the future workforce. And then, of course, things like analyzing candidate profiles. It really gives you that deeper picture of the available talent pool, the types of skill sets they have, the educational background that they have. And there are many tools that really bring together all of these aspects, that census data, the educational award data, our deed employment data, and then these real-time data sources, and package it together, synthesize it, and help to really, get to a point where you're not going after these multiple sources. You can go to one place where it's all aggregated together and it gives you a nice picture. So the next slide gives you just that, because really, who has time to go to all of these sources individually? Probably none of us. I know I certainly don't on my small team. So we at Real Time Talent, we access third-party sources that pull together each of those pieces of data and package it into those useful groupings, and then allow us to really customize geography down to even a zip code level in some cases in these tools. So it can be very, very, very localized, or for your whole state, you get to decide. So I've listed out the sources here that we use, but there are many more in this growing marketplace of data tools. These work for us for a lot of different reasons. I've listed out some of the ways that we use some of these tools and some of the features that we've come to really appreciate as we look at trends. I would lift up in particular, especially in tools like Shimura Jobs EQ. There's a model that looks at talent gaps. So actually the shortages likely over the next 3 years or 5 years in a particular occupation, or the award gaps where in your region you may be underproducing the graduates needed for your local mix of industry and occupations compared to a national benchmark. So again, kind of shorthand ways for you to start to see, there might be something going on here in our region with a shortage of software developers because we're really underproducing talent supply. We're likely to have a talent shortage. We've seen really low growth. What's going on there? So again, it gives you some tips on kind of where to look first and what questions to be asking with your employers. So you're not boiling the ocean. You go into the conversation with a little bit of something. And then so the next page is really giving you an idea of when we're sitting down and trying to define the parameters of what we care about, just know kind of going in, what geography are you thinking about? Will this be a statewide strategy? Will this be a regional strategy? So get your geography clear kind of when you're going in. And then you might find that you want to be really focused in a particular set of criteria. So talk to your employers about what matters. Talk to talent providers about what matters to job seekers. High wage, high skill, high demand. These are some of the criteria that we've used specific to like current technical education work. There are requirements for current technical education tied to Perkins 5 about jobs needing to be high wage, high skill, high demand. And so we can layer on some of those other pieces into the TPM context and create synergies in across a TPM initiative with something like current technical education, for example, as a potential talent provider. Again, those occupation gaps, award gaps, looking at where there's high local concentration of an occupation too. Might not be the top in total volume of employment, but maybe your region has 3 times the concentration of electrical manufacturers. And that's really, really important to your regional economy, unique to your community compared to other regions. So be sure you're not taking one labor market data point. It's not just about growth. It's not just about total employment, but really think about what makes your region unique. Where might graduate talent supplies need a little boost to meet future demand? So, it again may feel like a lot, but just it's a matter of sitting down and thinking about what really matters and what are the key variables that we should be thinking about as we're really jumping into creating a strategy and building out these collaboratives. So on the next slide, just wanted to share. You can click again. I apologize. I hope. Yeah, there we go. That's perfect. So we use this model here of sector strategies to do a deep dive sector analysis in our Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area in 6 critical industry sectors. And this was a valuable set of insights for our TPM collaboratives as a baseline. And so with that, I'd like to pass things to Phil to talk about how this sector work really informed the work of our Older Adult Services Collaborative.
Thanks, Erin. And as we wrap up here, we see specifically one of the healthcare analysis for that area needs by provider type. And it was this information that really validated what our critical occupation was selected as. And so if we click one more time, it's going to dive just a little bit deeper into that part that says older adult services, which is kind of an evolving term for long-term care employers. And you can see there that the work that Erin and her team did here really validates the fact that there is a need, not only a need in all of healthcare, but specifically for older adult services. And this is the type of data that can validate what our employers are thinking, what they're saying, and also validate the work moving forward. And the data, the information doesn't end there. We had to look at their demand analysis a couple of years ago and compare that to this information, and we had to do it again because after a period of time and after the impact of COVID-19, we had to see if that's the same, if the story is the same. And so I know we want to leave a couple minutes for questions. So we're going to wrap it up right there and just open up the mic for any questions for any of the team.
As you all are, as the audience is thinking about their questions, just one that I'll start with is just as you all think about kind of the greatest learning lesson of crossing that bridge into kind of TPM world, what would you say was kind of the greatest standout revelation or kind of aha moment for you all in terms of connecting those dots of what you've done on a day-to-day compared to what you kind of come to learn through TPM?
Jamie, if you'd flip to the next slide, I'll answer that question because everybody in the employer side of the equation knew that we had a huge problem with talent shortages in healthcare. But when we had 9 employers looking at just their own locations in just Minneapolis and St. Paul, all of them were set statewide, by the way, and we saw that their collective demand for 2 years out was 5,400 openings. It was an eye opener for everyone because that is where TPM then validates and gives you data you can work with all the supply side partners. And it was really eye-opening. Great lesson to learn. I know Erin and Phil have given you a lot and we haven't connected the dots to TPM, y'all, but what reactions are you having? How does this fit with what you're doing in your own geographies? Sean and Cherie, I see hands up.
Yeah, well, let's go Cherie first and then we'll go to Sean next.
Okay, I have a question about occupational mix. Down here in Illinois, we see a different preference for balancing CNAs versus certified medical assistants. And when you find people that for their own facilities want a different proportion, so they might each want certified nursing assistants, but some of them want more CMAs, how are you doing that balancing? Initiating that conversation?
You know, Cherie, that's a great point, right? And we ended up getting into that discussion as we looked at both internal and external talent pools. And knowing the employers, when you're doing this collective work, they can really make some choices more collectively around how to think about that pathway. So we started with nursing assistant, but we knew we had these other adjacent jobs where given some waivers that were in place in Minnesota, and I bet in all your states, around some of the normal regulatory certification requirements and credentials, we could start to think more broadly.
Okay, that helps. Thanks.
Sean, you're up.
So oftentimes employers are geared or set up to work directly with colleges and students at the college level. And in our partnership with our joint institution at the middle college and the university level, we're trying to get students in the workforce at an earlier age, right? So if we use this TPM framework, how do we engage, or what's our entry point for employers in helping them see the opportunity with younger adults or younger students, if you will?
Sean, that's an always ever-present challenge. And that's again where the power of having more than one employer involved in the work has been clear. You're right. All our education partners are often working with employers one at a time. Customized training is a big deliverable for some of our post-secondaries. In Minnesota, we really focus on career and tech education so that we can bring in those secondary partners with those high school, middle school touch points for jobs that don't require higher level credential. And there are many other ways, I'm sure, we could speak to, but I know we're running short on time. Jamie, the participants in the session today will get copies of the slides, and there's a lot more information for you to really tie those dots together with.
Thank you for